It started with a breath. Not yours, not mine, but hers. In a city that hadn't woken up yet, beneath gray skies and blinking streetlights, one heartbeat was already alert. She didn't wear a badge, she didn't carry a gun, but she was trained to find what others couldn't, to run into danger when others stood still. That morning, in the early quiet of Houston, a U.S. deputy prepared for a routine arrest. He had done this 100 times before, but she, his partner, felt it first. The weight in the air, the shift in silence, the scent of something wrong. Before the sirens, before the headlines, there was only a van, a street, a man, and a dog named Rocky, waiting for a moment that would change everything. It was January 15th, 2025. Houston was still half asleep. The streets were glazed with early dew. Storefronts blinked under flickering lights. Overhead, clouds hung like lead. It was too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't settle, but waits. Deputy Jesus Vargas zipped up his vest in the back of the van. The routine was familiar. Coffee in the thermos, badge clipped, radio tested. 17 years on the job, and still, he did it all the same way. He looked at the photo in his hand. Robert Lee Davis, armed, violent, unpredictable. But even so, it was just another warrant, right? Maybe not. He checked the time. 6:22. No call to his wife this morning. She was sleeping in. He didn't want to wake the kids. He just kissed them on the forehead, grabbed his gear, and left, like always. And yet, his chest was heavy. Not fear, something older. A pressure in the lungs, a grip around the ribs. He'd felt it once before, years ago, before a traffic stop that ended in gunfire. Instinct. Behind a strip mall on Stella Link Road, the team moved into position. Tight angles, unlit corridors, trash bins stacked high like walls. The usual obstacles. Vargas adjusted his earpiece, nodded to the man across from him. No words were needed. Then a sound. Sharp, piercing, the first shot. Before anyone could react, the second. Straight to his chest. He stumbled, dropped. The world spun. Radios burst to life. Officer down. We've got a man down. Shots fired, requesting immediate medevac. Repeat. Officer hit. Critical. Vargas lay back, hands pressed to a wound that wasn't closing. He blinked slowly. The clouds overhead looked closer now. The air colder. He didn't speak. But in his silence, something else stirred. Back at command, the mood flipped like a switch. The operation map became a battle board. The target, a priority kill or capture. Target is confirmed. Robert Lee Davis. He shot one of our own. This is no longer routine. Meanwhile, across the city, Officer James Carter sat in the front seat of an unmarked unit. Hands on the wheel, unmoving. In the passenger seat, his K-9 partner, Rocky, 18 months old, eyes forward. Ears high, body still. But inside, alive. Something had shifted, and both of them could feel it. Carter leaned across, adjusted Rocky's harness. His fingers paused for just a second. Then, slowly, he crouched until they were eye to eye. He whispered, You ready?" Rocky didn't bark, didn't tilt his head. But his stare was steady, determined. It said what words never could. Yes? This wasn't a mission anymore. This was retaliation. This was loyalty. This was a promise made not in noise, but in silence. As Houston's morning traffic slowly came alive, the city itself remained unaware. But inside one vehicle, they all knew. This wasn't just another assignment. This wasn't just a search. This was a step across a line you might not return from. And sometimes the first to cross it is the one who never says a word. Rocky didn't speak. He didn't ask. He just moved, guided, not by orders, but instinct. And what about you? Have you ever known someone who protected you without ever needing to speak? Someone whose presence alone was enough? Share your story in the comments, because sometimes the strongest guardians make no sound, but they are always there. The halls of the U.S. Marshals Building were hushed, but not calm, not anymore. Not after the call that had come in just hours earlier. One of their own had gone down. Now the air inside buzzed with a silent urgency. Lights flickered overhead. Radios crackled and hissed. Coffee sat untouched. Everyone moved, but no one spoke unless they had to. In the operations room, maps and satellite images covered the tables. Markers circled exit points, alleys, service corridors behind the Stellalink strip mall. The same strip mall where the morning had turned violent. Robert Lee Davis, the team leader repeated, voice low but sharp. Last seen, behind the strip mall, he's armed. He's already shot one of ours. We take no chances. Eyes flicked across the table, brows furrowed. Every face was tense now. No one said it out loud, but this wasn't about a warrant anymore. It was about justice. Officer James Carter stood quietly at the edge of the table, his arms crossed. The moment he'd heard the word Davis, something had changed. Vargas was more than just a colleague. He was the guy who stayed late to help rookies, who never raised his voice, but never missed a detail. Now he was gone. Beside Carter, Rocky stood perfectly still. Ears alert, nose twitching, eyes sharp. The 18-month-old Belgian Malinois didn't need words to know. This day was different. A deputy leaned over. "This is first real field op?" Carter nodded. "Yeah, but she's ready." Checklists ran fast. Radios calibrated, tactical gear cinched tight. Outside, the morning was still gray, heavy with the kind of humidity that sat on your skin like warning. Carter stopped at the rear of his vehicle and knelt down beside Rocky. Checked the harness, adjusted the strap, then leaned in close, just enough so only she could hear. "This isn't just a track job, girl. Today, we finished something. No bark, no whine, just eyes. Calm, focused, ready." The strip mall came into view like something from an old war movie. Rusted delivery doors, dented dumpsters, cracked pavement littered with trash. No movement, no sound. Carter raised his radio. "South entrance clear. Moving in." Then Rocky stopped. Head lowered, shoulders stiffened. Her body moved into a slow, deliberate crawl. Nose hovered inches above the concrete. She sniffed once, then again, and locked onto a large, faded blue dumpster across the alley. Carter noticed the shift. "What do you have?" he whispered. Rocky didn't move, didn't bark, but the air around her changed. Every muscle pointed in one direction. Carter clicked the mic. "Eyes up, Rocky's got something." Approaching target container. Two other officers moved in, weapons raised. The alley held its breath. Hands reached for the metal lid. It creaked. And in that heartbeat before the world erupted, Rocky stood like a compass, locked on truth. Rocky stood like a compass, locked on truth, and the world held its breath. At the edge of the dumpster, time nearly stopped. Street sounds faded, even the wind forgot where it was going. Radios fell silent. Fingers hovered near triggers. Every eye locked on one thing: Rocky. She didn't bark. She didn't lunge. She just stood there, body taut as a drawn bow. Nose twitching, muscles coiled. A silent sentinel on the verge of something terrible. Carter stepped closer, saw the tension ripple through her back. Her hackles were raised. He gently reached out, placed his hand on her shoulder. "Easy," he whispered. "We're in this together." A voice crackled over the radio. "Suspect may be inside. Prepare to engage." Two officers moved into position. Steady hands, measured breath. This wasn't just a tactical maneuver anymore. It was a moment suspended between survival and sacrifice. The lid creaked open. A wave of stench spilled out. Rotting plastic, stale food, chemical grime. Inside was darkness. Crumpled bags, collapsed boxes. Nothing moved, but Rocky didn't hesitate. In one fluid motion, she rose on her front paws and leaned into the opening. Her nose darted, scanning the shadows. A deeper breath, and then Stillness. A shift. Deep inside the garbage, a subtle movement. A breath. A scrape of metal. Then, bang! The first shot exploded from the shadows. Thunder echoed off the alley walls. Carter recoiled. Rocky jerked her head back, but not fast enough. The bullet grazed her snout. Blood streaked across her fur. She whimpered, but she didn't back down. Bang! A second shot, closer. It struck her neck. Rocky collapsed. "Rocky's hit!" Carter's voice tore through the chaos. "Fall back!" Screams and sirens burst into the alley. Officers ducked for cover. Radios screamed with overlapping commands. "Shots fired!" "Suspect armed and inside!" "Return fire, maintain cover!" Gunfire lit the air. The dumpster became a war zone. Shouts, clanging metal, and the echo of violence filled the narrow space. And on the ground, Rocky. Her body curled in on itself, legs twitching. Her breathing was shallow and uneven. Blood soaked the pavement beneath her. Carter sprinted to her side, dropped to his knees. He cradled her gently, lifting her into his arms. "You're okay. Stay with me," he said, his voice cracking. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. She wasn't whining, wasn't panicked. She looked at him with a strange calm, as if to say, "I did my part. Now it's your turn." "Medical en route," a voice shouted. "Chopper inbound." But Carter wasn't waiting. He stood. Rocky in his arms, he began to run. The street opened up around him. People stepped aside. No one spoke. No one had to, because from that dumpster, a monster had been cornered, but a hero had fallen. And now, every second was a fight to keep her alive. Rocky's body lay limp in Carter's arms, but she was still warm. Her breaths were faint but steady. Each one whispered a simple truth. There's still time. The chaos of the shootout faded into the distance. Sirens quieted. Gunshots were gone. Now, the only sound was Carter's boots pounding the pavement and the desperate rhythm of his heart. His uniform was soaked with blood. A crimson streak stretched from his chest to his knees. But he didn't feel it. The only thing he felt was the fragile life he carried against him. He repeated the same words like a prayer. "Just hold on." As he neared the helipad, a low hum vibrated through the air. It wasn't just a helicopter. It was hope. Dust kicked up. Branches swayed. Carter didn't slow. "Landing in 30 seconds," a voice crackled over the radio. "We're ready," someone shouted back. A medic ran toward him with a stretcher. Carter raised a hand. "Number, I'm carrying her." No one argued. No one blocked his path. There was something in his eyes, a vow etched in silence. The chopper touched down. Blades howled. Carter's jacket flapped wildly in the wind, but his arms were steady. He stepped into the cabin, sat down, and held Rocky close, laying her gently across his lap. A medic reached out with an oxygen mask. Carter didn't flinch. "Not for me," he murmured. "For her." Rocky stirred, barely. Her eyes opened just enough to find Carter's face. Her breaths were ragged, but she was still there. Carter pressed his forehead to hers. "We started together," he whispered. "We finished together." By the time they reached Westbury Animal Hospital, a surgical team was already waiting. Dr. Jeff Chalkley, the lead trauma vet, stood at the entrance in full scrubs. He didn't need to ask questions. He could see it in Carter's face. "Let's move," he barked. "She's still breathing," Carter said. "She's a fighter." Carter didn't let go as they entered the building. He carried Rocky through the double doors. Staff parted silently, like a river opening for a soldier. "Gunshot wound to the snout, through and through," Dr. Chalkley called out. "Second round to the neck. Possible spinal proximity." They wheeled Rocky toward surgery. Carter followed to the threshold, then stopped. He placed a hand on her head. "We made it this far. We're not stopping now." The doors closed. Carter was left staring through the observation window, fists clenched. He couldn't hear the monitors, but their blinking lights became his lifeline. Beep. Inside, the team worked fast. X-rays, clamps, commands. The bullet in her neck was close, too close to her spinal cord. Clean trajectory. No penetration to the spine. Dr. Chalkley confirmed. "We've got a shot." It took hours, and then silence. The doors opened. Chalkley stepped out, removed his mask, wiped his forehead, and locked eyes with Carter. "She made it," he said quietly. "She's going to live." Carter sank to his knees. His head dropped, his shoulders shook, but he didn't cry. Not in grief, not in fear. This was something else. A victory, a miracle, a promise kept. The next morning, Carter entered the recovery room. Rocky lifted her head, barely. Bandages wrapped around her snout. Tubes trailed beside her, but her eyes lit up. He knelt by the bed, held out his hand. Rocky nudged it gently with her nose. "Welcome back," he said. "The world's too quiet without you." Over the next few days, she healed. First, she lifted her head. Then she stood. By day 5, she was walking again. Veterinarians watched in quiet awe, because they weren't just witnessing recovery. They were witnessing the return of a warrior. Rocky's release from the hospital was quiet, just like her. The veterinary staff lined the hallway as she walked out on her own. No wheelchair, no stretcher. Her steps were slow, shaky, but they were hers. Heads turned, eyes welled up. No one clapped, no one cheered. They just bowed their heads. It wasn't celebration, it was reverence. Outside, Carter was waiting, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes locked on the door. When Rocky appeared, he bent down instinctively. She limped forward and nudged his chest with her nose. That one gesture said everything. "I'm still here." There were no press cameras, no flashing lights. But the story had already escaped the hospital walls. Within hours, number Hero Rocky trended nationwide. K-9 returns after surviving gunfire. Dog tracks fugitive, gets shot, still finds the suspect. Rocky, the nose that brought down a killer. Clips from her training, snippets of old operations, her first steps post-surgery. Everything spread like wildfire. She became a symbol, not just of survival, but of purpose. A week later, Carter opened the mailbox and pulled out a heavy envelope. Gold trim, official seal. It was from Crime Stoppers Houston. "You are cordially invited to the Heroes Awards luncheon." Inside was a nameplate, engraved for the honoree, Rocky, K-9 officer, recipient of the Johnny Clevenhagen Medal of Valor. No K-9 had ever received it before. The day of the ceremony, the ballroom was full. Officers in dress blues, city officials, survivors, journalists. But when Carter and Rocky entered, a hush swept the crowd. As they approached the stage, Carter held Rocky's leash loose, but steady. She didn't flinch under the lights. She didn't look at the crowd. She only looked at Carter. The announcer spoke. "Today we honor not just courage, but conviction. A dog who didn't wait for orders to do what was right. A soul who stepped into danger without hesitation and saved lives. Rocky, you are more than a partner. You are a protector." The entire hall rose in applause. Long, thunderous, emotional. But Carter didn't smile. He just placed a hand over Rocky's back and bowed his head, because to him the medal wasn't new. He had already given it, on the day she first looked into his eyes. The ceremony ended. But as they walked backstage, a volunteer handed Carter a stack of letters. "Just a few we've collected," she said. "There are hundreds more." He opened one. Crayon handwriting, wobbly letters. "Dear Rocky, I'm 7. My name is Lila. My mom said you were brave. When someone bullied me at school, I thought of you. I wasn't scared anymore. Thank you." Another envelope, older paper, tighter cursive. "Dear Rocky, I'm a Vietnam vet. Haven't left my house in years. But when I saw what you did, I felt something I haven't in decades. Tomorrow, I'm visiting a shelter. Because of you." Carter folded the letters. Rocky was lying at his feet, alert but calm. And in that look, those unwavering eyes, Carter understood something simple. You've already written back. That night, they sat on the back porch. Just the two of them, no headlines, no speeches. Just wind and stars and breathing. Rocky rested her head on her paws. Carter sipped his coffee and whispered, "Everyone looked at you on that stage. But you only looked at me." A long pause. Then, almost inaudibly, he added, "I didn't just almost lose a partner. I almost lost the one who taught me how to believe." Rocky looked up. No wag, no sound, just a look. One that said, "You're not alone." And for the first time in a long time, Carter believed it. Rocky is still here, still standing, still tracking. But now she's not just chasing danger. She's carrying a legacy. Every step she takes doesn't just leave a mark on the ground. It leaves one on the hearts of those who follow. Maybe you've known someone like her. Someone who stood beside you without needing a reason. Someone who didn't speak much, but made you feel safe just by being there. If this story moved you, if there's a silent guardian who once walked beside you, tell us about them in the comments. Because some heroes don't shout, they don't ask for credit, they just leave a trail of trust, loyalty, and love. Subscribe to Untold Paw Stories for more true stories of loyalty, courage, and silent companionship. We don't just tell stories. We honor the ones who leave paw prints on our world and our hearts.